can't be mortals.
Welcome, Mere Mortalites, to another episode of the Mere Mortals Meanderings, which is our usual weekly episode where Juan and I get together, me being Kyron here on this side.
Juan on this side.
On the 23rd of November, we usually get together 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday, live. Come join us if you will. And these episodes are where we chat about a particular topic, but we've changed the style to less structured, less prepared for the time going forward. As usual, in my kind of ones, I'm centering it around a book that I've been reading. And this one is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Gottlieb, a therapist, her therapist, and our lives revealed. So this was just one of my random ones that I picked up recently along the self-help type of lines, although I guess this isn't necessarily self-help because you're involving another person with it. And I decided to just give it a try, and I guess my expectations coming in were like, ugh.
Yeah, that's sort of how I look when I'm looking at this book, and that's exactly what I would have thought.
And to give you just a quick overview, pleasantly surprised, very pleasantly surprised. About
I guess it's the case as well when you come in with that expectation. If you come in with the expectation,
yeah, much easier to.
Then it's easy for it to surprise you.
Yeah. And so I guess my type of initial reaction was just, it's not that I don't think therapy can help. It's not that I don't think it is beneficial to people. It's just one of the ones where I was going, I suppose it cleared up some misconceptions that I had about what actually goes on in there. And whilst I still have some reservations, particularly right towards the end of it, which I didn't think some things were explained, I think the style of the book was actually really helpful. So it talks about Laurie, and so, changes some people's names and stuff to preserve anonymity, privacy.
Sure.
But essentially it's telling about her life as a
psychiatrist?
Therapist.
Oh, therapist.
Is there a difference between the two?
Psychotherapist.
I'm not actually aware of what the difference would be.
I think there is a difference between psychotherapists and
maybe
psychiatrists. I'll cook it up as you look through.
Yeah, as I just give the overview. So she talks about, she's a therapist, so she gets people coming in. She's got this, and in particular, there's kind of like 4 or 5 stories in here. One is of a lady called, I won't even bother saying their names because they're not the real persons. Yeah. A lady who's dying, and she's 30 years old, meant to get married, but turns out has cancer and is dying instead. There is a much older lady in her 70s who has basically like fucked up her children's lives, had 3 marriages, all disasters, and came in suicidal, saying like, I've got literally nothing to live for, no friends, and if I can't improve it in the next year, then I'm going to kill myself. A very angry studio executive or writer for like a TV hit series in Hollywood, and who's had some very traumatic things happen to him where, got into a car accident. His young son died at the time. He's having troubles communicating with his wife. And I think those were the main 3. And then she herself goes to see a therapist because of things happening in her life, notably a breakup with the boyfriend. But then it turns out like, okay, it was actually a whole lot more going on than just that. So it was good because it presented the point of view from both sides of the of the being the patient and then also being the therapist.
The therapist on as well,
which I thought was helpful.
And a psychiatrist can prescribe medicine, and a psychotherapist cannot.
Okay.
And so they do different types of therapies that they're allowed to mediate. Yeah,
there you go. So this one's all about talk therapy, I guess.
Sure.
So
talking it out.
Yep. She doesn't mention the. I think she had one off.
What an easy job! Huh? What an easy job at the face of it.
Okay. Like, all right. What do you think they do? Actually,
this is where it's like the initial of sounds like an easy job. You just letting people talk, and what I envision in my mind is you're sitting, you get someone that comes in, they're angry, they're sad, they insert whatever, and you just lend a helping ear, and you just kind of ask, how does that make you feel? What does that mean about it? Is that really true? So at face value, I'm going, wow, what an easy job. In fact, if you'd kind of described this to me when I was like 14, 15. No, maybe I was too young. Maybe 16-ish, 17, when I kind of knew that I did enjoy talking or listening or like being around humans. That definition, I would have gone, oh man, easy, I'd do that. Like I'll just do that all day. But then the burden, I think, comes in the back. Okay, sure. There are particular details in the style of questioning that you might go down one path with someone versus another. But I think the detrimental / hard thing is the equivalency of being a nurse or being a paramedic is that you have to deal with traumatic, crappy situations all the time that you have to, as much as you can, sure, you kind of like separate yourself from the story, but you're going to get dragged into some of these at some point and go like, oh man, that was so heavy. So what I assume it is just you sit in front of another person, you have a lot of, the patient will describe and follow the lead of the therapist in leading them through to get to some eventuality at the end of it.
Yeah, that's reasonably close, I guess. She talks about some of the more intricate points of what they are trying to do, which is essentially being a mirror, a reflection. Because people go in there looking for advice, and it's like, that people come in with a problem and they're looking for a solution, but that's not necessarily what the therapist is there to provide. It's meant to be, okay, here's, we've all got problems in our lives. Why is yours so, I guess, like difficult that you feel
you can't process it yourself?
Exactly. So, and there's a whole lot intricacies of trying to figure out what's going on behind the words, what isn't being said. A lot of times, I think two of the characters in her book, one of the characters, the real angry guy, he doesn't reveal that his son died in an accident until like months into their sessions, and so he's thinking, well, she's thinking, oh, like he's just having problems communicating with his wife or something like that. Or he's just stressed out at work and he can't sleep. I think that's the reason he says he joins. But, turns out like, oh no, he's got like all of this baggage that he's just not talking about and obviously still in his mind, but isn't revealing to her. And that takes a long time. So yeah, there's many roles they play. I suppose like just going from a starting point. Have you ever been to a therapist? Or
Nah, not to like, I've never like, when I'm envisioning is you go to a therapist, you like sit down, you have a conversation specifically as like in a therapeutic environment. No.
Okay. Do you know any therapists either? Is another question.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, I don't know any off the top of my head. But I have been to therapy once. Well, 8 times actually.
8 times, but it was like
it was
one bout. Yeah.
And so this was actually, I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, maybe. So when I was, let's say 17, maybe it was 18. No, it would have been like older than drinking age because I could go to bars. So I'm going to say 18 or 19. Probably 18. I was going up to my next door neighbor's house one evening because he'd invited me for his like a mini birthday celebration sort of deal. It was probably going to be like 7 people in his little fucking basement dungeon type area. Was actually on my way to walk up and I was going to do the shortcut across our house. Spiderweb right in the face. Boom. Like, oh,
big girl spiderweb. Yep.
Yeah. Get that shit out of my face. I'm pretty sure I remember walking down the driveway and then you'd know this one. The driveway up to his house was daunting.
It was huge.
It's a big, long ass, steep driveway. I went down it once on a skateboard with, sitting on the skateboard with some thongs. Fucking wrecked my thongs. They just disintegrated.
That's how much friction was generated from this
I was
slope.
using them as brakes. So I think I remember looking up at it and like hearing the noise of like loud people, music and stuff, and just going, I don't want to go up there. Like I don't want to go. And so I kind of went and I sat in the garage and I was just sitting there and just kind of ruminating. And this was kind of like peak social anxiety times for me, I'd say.
Sure.
High school wasn't particularly fun, but then getting out into the real world, in essence, where you're not forced to be places, it made it even more highlighting of just how anxious I was. And my dad ended up like just walking out and then like seeing like, oh, my son's just sitting in the middle of the garage, like what?
Ruminating. Yeah.
And I had a bit of a mental breakdown. Essentially, it was just like crying a lot, being like, yeah, I'm not happy. Blah blah blah. And so dad took me out. We actually went to like the McDonald's car park, I think, because my mum had just came home. So it was like, all right, this is more like one-on-one time. And he eventually suggested like, hey, like this isn't a normal reaction. Would you be willing to go to a therapist? And I just said yes. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah. So I ended up going to this guy for, I think it was 8 sessions. And I got, I would say, 0 out of it. 0. And the reason was I knew what my problem was. I also knew how to solve it, which was I was anxiously afraid of talking to basically everyone, but especially girls. And I knew how to solve it, which was to go out and start approaching and do it. And he, I guess, was... I feel like I was that person who was holding back things. Like I didn't reveal my inner life to this random dude.
Sure. Yeah.
And he'd give me some like techniques and things to perhaps work on. And it's kind of like the Jordan Peterson type thing. It's like, well, what can you manage? Can you manage to go out into a shopping center on your own? Okay. Can you manage to go out to like a movie? Can you go out in a night environment on your own?
Yeah, like stepping up the the facing of the fear.
Yeah,
like slowly and surely. Yeah.
Could you go up to someone unannounced in a bar? No. Could you say hi to the bartender? Yes. Okay. Well, that's what you do. So he'd give me kind of like these tasks and things to try and do. So I think it was actually not exactly like this one, which he was giving me more directions and stuff, whereas she's more
letting them come up with the next step or the action.
Yeah, something like that. And so even though I saw this guy a bunch of times and I kind of said I was doing the things, I was only like half-assed doing them to the point where like I wasn't really doing it. I was wasting his time. I was wasting my time. I was wasting my dad's money. It was kind of just like, I think we'd also just booked in a 8-week session. Maybe it was even 4. Honestly, I can't remember. It was so long ago. And doing all of that made me go, I think that was why I had that reaction, which was like, that was pointless. That didn't help me at all. Mostly because I didn't help myself by doing what you're meant to be doing in that. And I think that was probably also the reason why most people would go to a therapist voluntarily. Maybe I shouldn't even say that. I'm not even sure. Like how many people are mandated to go to one because of I'm sure there would be a prison sentence sort of thing. Like, doing therapy as part of your rehabilitation.
I'm sure there'd be plenty and other examples. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You have to kind of let go.
In this case, the people in this book were going to it voluntarily, and so I wasn't getting anything out of it, essentially. So that was my reaction to doing it. I guess a question for you, so it's not just me monologuing. What do you think would ever be a trigger point for you where you would think about maybe going to a therapist?
Maybe if it was something where, and see, it's so odd, really, because what immediately came to my mind, and then the next thought kind of like even negated it. So I almost am about to say nothing. But why you would, in a world 15 years ago, is like very different to a world of today, in that I would think about going when it's something where I have no real information about, nor the ability to learn from. So, I mean, based on what you're saying as well, I can only think you're only going to get the outcome or whatever achievement you're trying to get from it if you do talk about it to its fullest extent. So let's just say something occurred however much ago, and I'm angry now. I'm like really angry. And I didn't know how to dislocate away from that back into my normal patterns. There I can imagine on the fact of, okay, maybe I need to go and have a conversation with someone specifically, or maybe it's other people are telling you that to go and have this conversation. And so that might have been my answer 10 years ago. So if like something equivalent to that happens, and you're really not able to do that from yourself, okay, I can see the need potentially for that. The problem I see with that now is that it is so abundantly easy to find information now on, hey, if you have this problem, this is what you can do. And I'm just talking not just AI. It can just be any other format. I think we talked about this on the Discord around AI is probably going to chew up most of psychotherapists, and well, it won't be able to give you drugs as a psychiatrist would. Yeah. But a psychotherapist might, that part of the technology AI landscape might take that. The problem I stumble upon is, at least the way I see it, I'm like, if I was frustrated and mad for a couple of weeks and then someone pointed it out and be like, oh, you've been more so than that, my first recourse isn't going to go, okay, I'm probably going to talk to a psychotherapist. I'm probably going to be like, hey, I'm going to use my technological AI psychotherapist. Let me just feed all these things into it and see what it says. And honestly, that would probably make me feel a little bit more fulfilled / help me take the next steps, as opposed to seeing one. But that's my tiredness. I honestly, right now, if what would have to happen, it would have to be something that came up that I couldn't immediately or take any action on, that people are advising me from external, and I don't think the technology is going to help me find out the answer. It'd have to be, and I don't really know what that would be.
Yeah. For myself, go back to the part. I've got a friend goes to therapy, and they recommend everyone should, and my trigger word should go to therapy.
Who, the person that's going to it?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, they go to it. And so this is one of those times where it's like, oh, okay, this is someone who believes everyone should go to this thing. Why? Why do they believe that? And I think it's probably because for them, they've found it very beneficial, but they've also had, much harder life. Well, who's to say who's hard? And it's one of the things in the book that she talks about, where it's like, comparison in this case is also unhelpful. Someone who's dying and has a lot of reason to be very unhappy, sad, hardness, suffering in their life, it might not even be that bad compared to someone whose boyfriend broke up with her, and that other person feels like they're going through much more, feels like they're suffering more, even though if you're trying to compare the two, you'd say oh, well, the dying person's probably
worse.
Yeah. And so that was another when I hear I should do something, it's like, nah, fuck you.
Yeah, that's a bit.
I've never heard someone say nobody should go to a therapist, for example. True. So
well, it's more the underlying. So I think it's hidden behind it, right? So when they say, it's like if someone was to say, I get as well, but oh, well, people should go to therapy. I'm like, go more fundamental. What is the reason they're saying that you should go to therapy? And then the answer sounds like it might be, because you can, even if through the good times or the bad times, you can make sure that you're retrospecting and having a conversation about how to improve yourself. Okay, so remove the word therapy out of it. That baseline foundational stuff of okay, well, you should make sure that you're talking and retrospecting and becoming a better person, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that means to you, whatever you value. That's the bit that I'm absolutely, fully supportive of that. But you can do that through therapy, an assisted conversation with someone. You can do that by a whole host of other meaningful ways. For us, I guess it's fitness, I guess I would say. A big part of what would be becoming better or having feeling more calmer from a day perspective would be just the fitness, the training that we do. So, you could say that's... And you hear it, people are like, oh, my therapy is gym, or my therapy is running, or my therapy is dancing, right? So I think thinking about it therapy of going to a particular person, is explained probably in this book, or maybe how that person was seeing it. Yes, I agree. But there's a whole load of other ways that you can therapeutically help yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll talk more about that stuff kind of after the Boostagram Lounge. The reason they say that, I would probably say, is they probably don't have anyone else in their life where they can fully be themselves in a certain extent, which is, whether that's because they don't feel understood from people like myself, which is possible, or they're afraid to fully
Share
show
all that.
themselves. You know, that's a hard question to answer. But after reading this, I was going like, you know what, there would be a way where I would consider it. And she actually talks in the book about how there's like, I'd struggle to find it right in the moment, the kind of little stages of making a decision or a change, which is there's like just the very brief like preconception of something which you would have thought impossible before. Perhaps for yourself it'd be like zero reason why you'd go to therapy. And this is how I would have said myself before reading this. And then at some point in the book I was like, oh, you know what? I would go if I had a problem which I was giving my all to solve and I couldn't solve it, and despite like my best ways
like
of trying
efforts
to do it.
Yep.
Plus communicating this with other people and their suggestions, implementing them. And if it was still kind of unsolvable, then I'd probably go like, all right, maybe the problem is not the solution is not actually the answer. The problem is the problem. I'm getting the problem wrong.
Yep.
And I could say for myself right now, so it's like, the biggest problem if I was to go to therapy right now, it would probably be talking about the difficulties of finding a partner. That would probably be the big one. If over this next year I make zero progress on that and I go, all right, I've tried doing everything that I can, implementing like all the solutions that I feel like I should be able to do that. Maybe it's not actually finding a partner that is the problem. Maybe it's, I'm lacking a deeper meaning in life. Maybe it's XYZ thing. And this is where talking with someone could actually help reveal what that actual thing is, which I'm not particularly cognizant of myself. And that's where I go, okay, that's where a benefit could be provided to by an external force. And then, we can talk perhaps afterwards of whether AI could do this better, or if a gym or a other type of way of doing that. I made a joke in the initial line of where engaging in the male version of therapy, aka podcasting. And I see Cole in the chat says the male version of therapy is either I gotta move forward, either loading yourself, working out. Isolating yourself, working out intensely, getting blasted drunk with friends, or a combination of all three. And there's a certain truth to that, in that the reason that people engage in self-destructive behavior is that it's actually helping them in a way.
Yeah, like the thing I was going to say, so like as you was talking about say you go for a year, say that nothing comes about from a relationship perspective, not even close. And then you go, okay, well, that might be a point of have the conversation with someone around it, just to kind of understand or go like to a more fundamental level, if it is a fundamental level. And I guess this is I don't want to push against the idea of like a therapist, because I'm sure that a therapist in and itself, the job that they like, the value they provide to people, there's definitely good value out there for it. But there's, I guess, a small but, it's not a big but. I'm trying to go, what is the fundamental thing that a therapist helps to do for somebody else? And I still kind of go, they help you to understand at a really basic level either your intents or your purposes or the reason why you have certain things that you might be trying to achieve that you can't see yourself.
Or even why you behave in certain ways.
And often it's because it is a third person, non-close to you, that you can also open up and share, because it's one, kind of confidential. Two, they don't really know you. So if you bashed a dog or you killed your kid driving or something else, it's kind of a confident, you can tell that maybe you haven't told of anybody else. Take the example of Tim Ferriss. He was on Stephen Bartlett and someone else's podcast just recently, and he was again sharing how he almost committed suicide, and even before that, when he was sexually molested by his was it the
family friend or something?
Family friend's son, basically. Okay. He only ever shared it with one of his ex-girlfriends and somebody else. No one else knew about it, and he'd never talked about it until he was talking to one of his like a therapist basically, and she shared with him about how she had been molested when she was younger in a much worse way. Tim then shared that what happened to him with her, and eventually he met someone out and about who basically was like, oh, you know, can you write it? His story was he took two of the 4-hour work weeks. It was like a signing. Tim was signing it. This guy came up to him and he was like, oh, can you do it for me and my brother? And Tim asked him, you know, what do you want me to write here for your brother? And the guy froze. It's a bit weird. So he was like, oh, look, Tim said to him, come back a little bit later. I'll sign it for you. The guy came back later and said to him, hey, my brother committed suicide, but we've kept his room all the same. And he really, really loved what you've talked about. And I wish more people were talking about it. And that's kind of when the penny hit for him. I was like, oh, maybe I should share this particular bit of my story and share it and whatnot. And so like aspects of that where I go like, okay, say for him, he kept it quiet and maybe it was affecting him in some ways, but he was still a productive member or human. And it didn't sound like in his circumstance, he went to a therapist. Maybe he did, I don't know, but it didn't sound like he went to a therapist continuously to improve whatever happened. Mm-hmm. It ended up being the just pure sharing what happened to him. And while it was hard and having conversations about it, it was he had conversations, he exposed it to the world, and then things kind of came out from underneath that. So part of me goes, if in a year's time, you for yourself, that's not working, I still kind of go, which is the but bit. It's like, yeah, but what you're going to get out from it is this kind of more open, honest conversation where you're trying to explore, you know, maybe fundamental reasons as to why it's not working. But I see everyone has a potential, whether it's using technology or just a more pure sense of finding the time and space to be realistic with themselves and looking, you know, inwardly to kind of figure out, okay, well, what are those things? Because you know it within yourself. And all that therapy is doing, which again, getting back to it, is helping to expose all of those various things that you already know is just difficult to either come out from you individually or you haven't spent enough time doing it. But the value, and I see it, the value is it's almost like speed running it. You know, they generally know, they've seen if someone's got the problem of, say, suicide. An example was Tony Robbins. There's a famous video of Tony Robbins of a guy with red shoes that looks a little bit like dopey, and he's at his, you know, big event that they pay like. Have you seen this? Yeah. So it's like
I haven't.
You haven't seen it. So for those who haven't, you know, this guy gets up on the microphone. He's on a Tony Robbins event, and he basically goes like, "I'm suicidal. Like I'm going to commit suicide at any point now." And so Tony kind of comes over to him, and he's talked about it in separate podcasts and conversations. It's for those particular individuals, it's about kind of shifting the conversation, take them off their feet, make them focus on something else, show them laughter, show them anger, show them how dumb what they're saying is to get them into a different path. And so in this particular one, Tony kind of comes up to him. He's making a couple of jokes. The guy was wearing red shoes. So, you know, he asks him like, hey, are you going to commit suicide because you have silly red shoes? And the guy's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, they're pretty dumb shoes. And everyone laughs. He laughs. And then Tony goes like, oh, you know, you're laughing, you know, it'd be kind of a shame if you let that laugh go, you know, by killing yourself. And it goes a bit longer, and then the conversation kind of, you know, he ends up like crying, they hug it out, and you can tell the guy kind of gets past whatever was, you know, in his mind as to making it.
Fuck, man, that is the exact opposite of therapy.
Oh.
Those
well,
Tony Robbins is the epitome of the anti-therapist.
I don't know if he's actually, he might be a qualified therapist. I actually serious. I'll look it up.
No way, man. That's 100% the opposite of therapy. What you just described.
No, he is not. But it's like it's his. And honestly, I haven't looked into it enough. But it was like that's how he treats or talks to people, and you know, whether right or wrong, apparently has worked with a lot of people.
Yeah.
All I'm sort of saying is
that's definitely not therapy.
I think a lot of the therapy is getting you to understand what you already know or what you want to know, but generally comes from you as opposed to coming from them directly.
Yeah, my kind of common theme of
like, okay, no, just go back to that. Yeah. So if to me, you're sitting right now, if a year went by and you're like, my relationships aren't working for whatever reason, I still kind of go, sitting here right now, I'd go, I don't know if you're going to get any value from going to a therapist, because I know that you're someone who can retrospect, review, have a look at other things that you can. If you were sitting here today and you're like, if I externally could see you and be like, oh, but you're just doing the same thing, or you're not improving in this aspect of life, or there's other deficiencies that are obvious, that I'd be like, okay, there's probably benefit in talking to that if that's something that you don't. But and then here's the reality for people. But then if Karen's sitting there or someone else is sitting at home, and if you think in your mind, you're like, oh, but I haven't shared this, and I haven't talked about this, and I haven't talked about that. That's when a therapist is good, in the sense of, okay, well, it's sharing all these other things that sometimes you don't want to go on to. Again, Cole pointed it out, but generally as guys, as opposed to girls in general, you're not going to find a group of guys where they're like, I had a really tough time about this, and what are you thinking about, and what do you support? And as much as guys know about that, you don't really do it, just as in general. It's unless it's a very open group, or you do that kind of naturally. But most often you're kind of holding back. There's male aspects to that. There's the trying to be the brave person, or the solemn individual. Again, not always the case. I'm rational. I'm generalizing, but for the most part, I can see the therapy being a good thing if there's certain things that are beneficial to open up with someone that you just don't, for social kamikaze reasons, you're not going to go and do.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between the introspection aspect and the understanding aspect. Because you can be nth degree introspective, and that can actually be awful because you're thinking too much, you're analyzing too much, and you get yourself into trouble by essentially thinking too much. If anything, I was chatting with my brother the other day, and he, because I had a moment where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And it was related to pretty much this issue of talking with girls, or not talking with girls, finding a partner. And the main outcome was like, you're probably a bit too smart, and smart in the sense of you think too much. That's not necessary. And those two things kind of like come together. You need to be able to think to
reason through it.
Yeah, well, I guess like smartness, IQ is probably linked to like being able to do multiple levels of thinking and not just like surface level. And the main commonality of all the people in this book, I would say, is they didn't have people they could 100% talk through or like feel understood by. Perhaps the only exception to that would be the girl who's dying, in the sense that she probably just needed an out. Yeah, that single person they didn't know at all, and because she had a partner who she could talk things with, family, friends. She seemed like a very well-loved person and could communicate with these people, but she needed something external. Yeah,
like a pure release valve.
Most of the other people in this book seem to not have that. Being able to 100% say like, hey, this is exactly what's going on through my head and things like that. So that would probably be the commonality. So yeah, I guess maybe you could say that that's what that guy was doing with Tony Robbins, but that's a very different environment. That's therapy in front of thousands of people. I'm not sure is a
but like the other one that I've always I've heard the term, and I saw someone on my socials do something recently where there's a certain group of people, not everyone, but a certain group of people who go to relationships, like couple counseling, relational therapy before, and they say before there's any problems. Obvious when there's problems, okay, makes sense. But there's another group of individuals or couples who go when there isn't any problems, and they kind of call that as but we do that because you get ahead and you learn the techniques of how to deal with masculine energy and feminine energy. And again, there was a Tony Robbins event over in Mexico just recently about this, and that you have all these conversations. But again, as I hear what they share or when they go to it, it strikes me as yes, but what I'm hearing from therapy is that you're learning, or that you're investing energy or time into learning something, becoming better and improving, which again, my default kind of goes to, yes, but there's so many ways you can do that without the exclusivity of going down the therapy path, nor spending something. Now, again, there is benefit in when you invest some sort of money or capital into doing something, then you do invest yourself more into doing it because you've put money on the line. You put a little bit of skin on the line. So then you care more about it and will do something. So if it's for that reason, maybe that's also a good thing, but it's some level of incentive. But when I see that again, I kind of go, I just see other options and opportunities that you can take. It doesn't have to be exclusively the therapeutic way.
Yeah.
Even though it is a good option for quite a few people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the Boostagram Lounge, and then we'll talk about some of the kind of modern day therapy options, as well as the mail question. And you're not going to struggle, one, because we actually did get some Boostagrams coming in, but the Satoshi stream is not working at this very point.
No, I don't see any on the Satoshi stream.
Yep, so I'm going to just jump into where I can actually see them. We go into Fountain here, going to earn income, going to go to Boost. So we did actually get a couple come in, I saw this week. From, if Fountain will load, we got 2 coming in from here that I can see.
From Petar.
Yeah, so we've got one from True Fans. This was from the late bloomer actor. He says, I keep saying on Pod News and to True Fans CEO Sam Sethi, V4V won't become mainstream until it's a system with fiat currency, no wallets, no sats. And he sent, I think, 15 sats, but that was probably more. That was probably 50 to 100-ish. So yes, thank you. Agreed, mate. It will become easy. It will become easy. And who will make it easy is the question.
That's a very good question. I'll read out Petar's boost as well.
Yep.
He sends, I'm assuming, probably a total of 2,000 or something like that. 2,222 is what I'm assuming.
Or it could be 1,100. I think 1,100.
Yeah, 1,100. Yeah. He says, this is from the Enjoy Your Fucking Life or You're Going to Die episode we did last week. I have to agree with one. Having young kids, especially under 2, adds additional complication to any plans. Dealing with poops, for example, everywhere I go these days, I need to think about what to do with a literal pile of human shit. Yes, you do. Leaning on routine is inevitable. Also, don't forget, babies develop better with repetition and generally are much happier with familiarity. As a parent, you do it subconsciously for them. Yep, no, absolutely. And Petar, I was been saying to Karen earlier before the podcast as well, my little one's going through the phase of emotionally dealing with big emotions as well, and tantrums and the terrible twos. And again, it's crazy in the sense of familiarity and routine. They're so good, but at the same time, man, it makes me go crazy, doing almost the same thing without having a little bit of differentiation. So I went, after that podcast last weekend, I went to the running track with my little one, and she loved it, like loved running. So it was something different that we did one morning. And then yesterday, apart from going in the morning to So's Run Club for a walk and coming home after soccer, all I did was stay at home. Just stayed at home. And did go shopping. But I stayed at home. We did play and we get to do all these various things. But just the being at home and the routine and the familiarity, and it's looking likely that we're going to do the same thing today. I was like, oh man, I'm craving some adventure. So like the balance between that to just going and doing something, it's a weird, tough feeling. Again, let's go back to therapy. That's the one where I'm like, if I maybe didn't have as many parents that I know around me, or there wasn't the evident amount of information that I can find, that might be something that I'd be like, okay, maybe it's worth talking to someone about that. And it's weird. They don't have to be a specialist about it, but it would be maybe trying to help me understand, okay, what's this craving of adventure or doing something different and going for the shiny thing, whatever it may be, as opposed to understanding the reality of it. Maybe. So I could see that if it wasn't easy enough for me to just go find that information myself.
Yeah. That's fucking kids, man. Let's just
kids
chuck them out.
But let's talk about other therapies in general, like male therapies that we.
So I'll give a couple of little quick stats here. So there's just AI spitting this out at me, but makes sense based on what she was saying in the book as well. One survey found 41% of women had been to therapy compared to 29% of men, and that seems to just be like a general type ratios that women are much more likely to seek out therapy. Women are also much more likely to be therapists, is I believe the other stat that I know. So I guess this gets to, I mean, like, neither of us are particularly qualified to say why that is, but in general, females talk more within their groups about more emotional topics, I guess, and men are more related to like external things. In general, I would say like sports and random shit like that.
Yeah.
So that's just a general random thing. But it was saying a little thing here of what are Australian men talking about in therapy. And this was from mid last year that they were talking about this. What do you reckon? Some of the topics that men are talking about in 6 topics tend to reoccur amongst men.
Loneliness.
Yeah, nailed that.
Anger.
Let me see if that's... Yep, depression, anxiety, anger, and addiction. It's got 2 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say depression, loneliness is another one, but I guess they've put them all in the one.
You were talking about one just before.
Oh, was I?
Yeah. As in 1 minute ago you were talking about parenting.
Oh, okay. They grouped that as okay. I was thinking more like emotion. Okay, parenting. Death?
No death in here. No death. We're all going to live forever.
All going to live forever. We've reached the
We've
threshold. We've reached the
solved it.
threshold. It's not a problem to worry about. I don't know. What are the others?
Separation and divorce.
Yeah.
Intimacy issues or concerns.
Yep.
And this particularly sexual related, so erectile dysfunction, sex addiction, things that are considered shameful, perhaps. So perhaps even fantasies and things like that would fall under that. And then number 2 was identity and masculinity, which that's one that I've always never understood. I think masculinity is, it's almost like the most boring topic for me. I don't know why. It's never one that I've found man, am I masculine enough? Am I? I don't
think I've ever thought that.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever thought that.
Which is funny because maybe in some ways I should, because I think I mentioned the other week, I've got a lot of feminine type traits and the things that I seek out, and personality characteristics and things certainly put me on a more feminine spectrum, but I've never worried about being masculine, which I don't know. It's odd. Yeah. I find odd compared to other guys who I'm like, dude, you're ticking off all the masculine boxes, but you're worried about your masculinity. You've already got it, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But certainly the other ones, I think we're all relatively relatable in terms of why you would
go to have that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, those are just some of the things that men are seeking out. Would I consider going to the gym therapy, or I think probably not. I think that solves some of the perhaps hormonal, the physical issues, doing things that playing sports, going outside, you're getting sunlight, you're raising your heart rate, you're doing things that are going to be physically beneficial for you, and physical health translates into mental health as well. I think they're pretty intimately linked. So I think we probably try and solve more of the physical related stuff. It's the kind of engineering approach, or the woman has a problem at home, male partner says a whole bunch of things of how to fix that problem, and she's like, that's not what, I didn't come to you looking for a fucking solution. I just wanted to be heard and understood. So females probably get more of that side of things. They nail that side, whereas the men are more solving the actual tangible, here's what you can do in the next 5 minutes or next day or next week to solve that. And then vice versa, men are probably really shitty at the understanding emotional context, reasons for why you're perhaps implementing the changes, and females, I'm guessing, struggle more with the practical, all right, I'm feeling lonely, here's 5 things I can do to make more friends, or I could read this book, or etc. So once again, generalizing here. Would you consider going to the gym therapy as in the context that we've talked about here?
Yeah, in a way, yes, I would. And again, I've often, probably last 10 years, I'll just say, more maybe, it's it always was a physical thing from the beginning. Fine, absolutely, and still is, right? But more, I'll probably say like 10 years now of the routine, the ability of just going through the emotion regulations, the like known hormonal releases that you get from a training, whether it's a run or a swim or a gym workout, whatever, helps you to kind of just be a little bit more stable. So I would put it in that category. I was going to ask you this. So I'm trying to kind of go a little bit more fundamental. If you were like, I won't make it dumb, but if you were just very, very low emotions, so not zero emotions, like zero emotions, but very, very low. So, happiness was little blips and sadness was little blips and anger and everything. Would that sort of individual really need to go to therapy if emotions are almost void? So in the example that you gave about for yourself on relationships, and it doesn't work for a year, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that an emotion at the end of that year, if it doesn't come out, maybe sadness that's attached to loneliness, maybe a bit of frustration. But if those emotions were like barely perceptible, like so low, would you still think then that you would need or require therapy?
It would depend if the reason that I'm not feeling emotions is because I'm damping them down. The kind of a strategy for dealing with negative stuff in your life is to fucking numb yourself to nothingness. And people can sometimes do this with drugs, but I could see a way of you emotionally being able to rationalize things, doing it purely intellectually to cut everything at the knees. And then having like this bubbling, I guess, like inner core of turmoil, but on the surface, not displaying it. So that would be like, it doesn't look like he's an emotional person, but perhaps he is. I'm sure that that's probably something you'd need to see like as a kid. What were they like as a kid? If they were just a kid who was just like meh to everything, then that's probably fine. But yeah, I'd say if you're not feeling things, it's the rare type of person, I would say.
Well, I guess I was trying to think whether, ultimately whether therapy, or if you want to call, fitness therapy or walking therapy or just talking to a friend as therapy or whatever you want to designate as that, if it's really just fundamentally like regulating your emotions to a point that it's understandable so that you can do something about. Because, I'm just thinking a kid, my daughter, she's young, she's going through these big emotions, right? And part of that, you don't have to call it therapy, but she doesn't understand how to handle emotions like this. And so you have to kind of talk her through and help her out with these sort of things. So similarly, I'm just kind of wondering, at the end, is it just a case of regulating emotions? What
does regulate mean? Does that mean finding an outlet for like a socially acceptable outlet for something you're feeling? Does that mean intentionally squashing it in the moment so that you could release it later? Does that mean... I guess it would depend on what that actually means.
You're right. Again, I'm just thinking the example that you put, which I think is a good one. If in a year's time nothing happens from a relationship, you could at that point still be like, I'm not super sad. I'm doing all the things I still enjoy. You're happy because you're training and things are improving and all other aspects of life are fine. And you could say, it's sad and slowly, but it's not that bad. It's like, okay, I guess it's not really the emotion part of it, but you still want that. Like it's still very much like, but I still want that. So I want this therapist to kind of help me figure out what it is that I'm doing here that isn't helping me achieve this. I guess maybe, I was trying to say if it's just emotions, but it sounds like it isn't. Might not just be emotions itself that it tries to work through.
This is where it could be the step behind. I know if I just wiped my slate clean in terms of my routine, I have the capacity to go out 12 hours a day, do everything I can to put me in positions where I will meet females, and I'm sure I'd find a partner very quickly.
This is my challenge though, I think, and because I kind of go, what if you did that and you didn't? Like what? So like just say theoretically, I go blank slate, you go hardcore at it, and you still don't. Is it then a case of it might not be the case. Oh, yeah, I'm investing more time, and so it's giving me more probability for it. But will it be, will it decrease the odds? Because, when you aim for something so ridiculous, like, if you aim for happiness ridiculously hard, you don't find it, but you kind of have to aim for something adjacent or something else that you care for, and then you'll achieve that.
Yeah. The tricky thing would then be like, if you put all of your effort into finding like a partner like that, they ask, what are you doing with your life? And you're like,
approaching.
How the fuck?
Approaching until I get a relationship.
How the fuck do you answer that? So there's the question then would be like, all right, are your standards too high? Are your standards too high because you're afraid of intimacy, or afraid of having something change your life? Are you there's all of these things where it's like, I'm 100% certain if I did that, I'd find a partner, and you know what? I would then just have a different problem in my life, and it would be just as consuming, would feel just the same as much as this one now. So it's like, all right, well, that's not going to be
that's not the solution.
Yeah, correct. And there's probably there's two things I was going to bring up: the AI stuff and this point, which was, whilst reading the book, I got to the very end, and she had this last paragraph where she talks about the. Let me read up the title of the last. It's not a pause in the conversation. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, a pause in the conversation is the last paragraph here, and you might go like, okay, so this is the point where she's kind of like getting towards the end of her therapy. She feels like she's about to leave, and they call that a termination of the therapy.
Okay.
And throughout this whole period of reading it, I'm going like, okay, well, these people have like multi-complex, varied problems. At what point do they stop, or do they find a solution, or at what point does the therapy end? Is there an end date for this kind of like counseling in a way? And even midway through, she was saying like, oh, there's this period where people feel like they're doing better. They've started to implement some things. This is the most dangerous period. They actually need to be coming to therapy more at this time,
right? Because
they're more likely to backslide, or feel like they've fully accomplished what they feel like set out to do, when they're not necessarily finished. They've just taken the first step. The first step feels great, but then there's still 1,000 steps to take to get.
Sounds like good money.
Yeah,
sounds like a good money system.
And this is where I kind of left the book being a bit confused, going, there was no real, I feel like, framing of what when would therapy end? Like, what are the kind of like characteristics?
What are your success metrics, or your things that go like, okay, cool, you should terminate.
And usually it seems to be people just say, I feel like I don't need to come in anymore, which I guess is the whole reason why they go. It's like, I feel like I should go to therapy. Very vague and wishy-washy, which is fine, I guess. It's all about emotion. So, you're not going to have concrete data of, achieve XYZ goal, and then therapy can then commence or end. But I did feel the framing of it was going, okay, I still don't understand when she thinks an acceptable time to end, or what are the type of things that should happen or could happen for that to be like, and that's why a pause in the conversation. The pause could be the rest of their lives and they never see each other again, or it could be, okay, this is just a pause in our therapy, and I might be back in 2 weeks' time. I might be back in 2 years' time. I might be back in 10 years' time. Yeah. So that was one point where I left a bit confused. The other one, this was published in 2019, so just pre-COVID and also just pre-AI. And I think I'd be very interested to hear her thoughts on the business side of things, which she touches on slightly, because it is a business as well. And most of these are therapists. They kind of, it seemed to be like they were more self-operated, but perhaps they'd be in a small group with others. So there'd be perhaps like a building with which is set up to have, multiple therapists working out of it, but they each seem to be working independently. They have to kind of like source their own clients in a way, sort of deal. And so she talks about, advertising in terms of, come in for one free session. If you feel like you got some benefit or there's things to work through, then you can come back and do more paid ones. So that's more like this is real advertising type behavior marketing. You can market yourself to certain niches of, I'm a couples therapist. I'm a therapist related to divorce or divorcees. I'm a single female, so I appeal more to the single female who will perhaps be understood or something like that. And the thing that she briefly mentions, like, there's this kind of like little rise of text therapy, but I felt it was impersonal, didn't get to the heart of what a therapist can provide and stuff. And I'm going like, damn, girl, like AI therapy is here. Yeah, I'd be curious to know how her business is going. Yeah, 'cause I reckon it probably would have peaked or like really picked up during COVID in the sense of perhaps she would have had to have converted to online therapy, I'm guessing.
Well, yes.
And so business could have been good, really good for a bit. And then now it's like, all right, well, if we're all used to online therapy, how very different is that compared to just AI therapy?
True, but I disagree because it's a generational thing. And it's likely that, so take for instance, a divorcee or relationships, and I'll just generalize it. Let's just say it's older than 25, generally maybe 35 years old, 40 years old. And it still doesn't strike me that a general 40-year-old will default to AI or technology first. They'll probably go to a person first, especially if they can pay and that's more of a guarantee versus there's no guarantee with AI or something to that effect. Or even if therapy is not a guarantee, there's tried and proven methods in there that maybe you just don't even know how to ask in AI. Whereas if it's a kids therapy, let's just say for instance, I would probably say there's way more likelihood that a kid in today's world, 12-year-old, would be like, I'm just going to ask this to AI and talk to the AI. Why would I go and talk to a therapist? That makes all the sense to me. And but eventually as it becomes a more mainstream thing that everyone's using, I could see that being a super challenge for them.
Is the, part of the reason of loneliness, I assume, is there's less physical connections with people. We're going more digital. Great in some ways because you can connect with other people across the world. A lot of people, people would maybe even say that World of Warcraft is a type of therapy because they're meeting like-minded people. They can communicate in, perhaps a format which is less intense than the physical eye contact, all of the physical body language, and interpreting that can be. I talked about going to a thing at the gym recently where a bunch of guys from the gym, a couple of girls as well, got together for a goodbye thing, and the mingling dynamics of 8 people in a bar is it's complex, man.
Sure,
it's complex, and certainly for a bunch of people, that's not their preferred avenue for communication. And so I could see the digital helping a lot of people. And then also for other people, the more digital is actually, it's causing them to be more isolated. So they would actually seek out a physical therapist.
Yeah. And you're going to have, you're going to have all options available.
So it depends. Are there more weebos in the world or are there more extroverts? That's the question. That's
the real
Laurie,
question.
That's your whole business is going to depend on if you think there's more weebos or if there's more
good grief,
real lifers.
More real lifers. I think ultimately for me, with what's the defining factor in today's world that I would say to make you go something like a personable therapist like a human as opposed to using like every other option that's available. I'd kind of say, and this is just an old thing, that a well-formed question is half the answer. Same thing goes for the well-formed prompt or an incantation or whatever. If you don't really know what the right question is and you don't have the tools, techniques, information, and people to figure out the question, then I can see it being good, because what therapists are good for is understanding what the real question, the underlying thing is, and whether that's something else that you need to like face, helps them understand that. So, I'm not saying this is the answer, the reality of the question, but if in a year's time you kind of go, oh man, why am I not finding a girl or a relationship? You know, they might be, you know, a therapist might go, actually, yeah, that's a wrong question ultimately, and helping you understand. It's like, actually, the real question is, why do you still feel like you're not adequate enough to be the man to bring it? No, something to that effect, right? And then people on their own might not get to that point and go, oh shit, that was my unlock that I needed. Actually, if you just focused more in training and you're sleeping and doing things that, you know, mastery or whatever. I'm reading mastery at the moment. You might go, oh, that's what I needed, and hooray, you succeed. So, but then there's other people who might be able to figure out the right questions themselves, where whatever, go for a month and you feel really lonely, and they might, in a smart way, retrospect and go, okay, well, is that really the question? Is let me just think it through and figure out, actually, if I read 3 biographies and I talked to 2 people and I talked to this other person, and actually it might be that's the problem with me, and then I'll retrospect on that and try to improve on that, and then again, fantastic. So if you can figure out the question yourself to begin with and then follow the path, cool. I think you don't need that, pay the extra money, but paying someone money directly, 1, incentivizes you, 2, they have seen the routine across other people. I think the most powerful thing I've always kind of like settled in from a therapeutic perspective, and I've said this to a lot of people, is whenever I hear like some genuine concerns or people, you know, problem, and even myself when I complain about it, it's the realization, or I'll spin it in the non-kind way, and then I'll say it in a kind way. The non-kind way is shut the fuck up. Like everyone has experienced this or worse.
This is Juan's therapy.
Like, what a stupid complaint. The kind way is like, yes, it is suffering. Yes, it is difficult. Yeah. But be okay in the feeling that everyone else has gone through this at some point. You're not unique in that factor. That non-uniqueness is a beautiful thing, in the you are insignificant in the universe, but that also gives you a bit of an unlock as well around. And even given saying that means like, who cares? Improve and just do what you can type of deal.
Yeah,
but
and for some people that's not actually beneficial.
Correct, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I gave you there's like kind, even the kind is probably not even kind, but there's a non-kind way, which some people like froth. Fantastic. I know I myself, you know, whatever. I could give you a billion examples, but I'm sure there's been an example where I'm like tired and annoyed and grumpy, and I slept 3 hours and I've got to do this, and I'm like, oh man, complaining. And, you know, it's the general for guys, probably unkind to yourselves and kind to others. And unkind, I was like, what am I complaining about? Like, there's a bazillion things that could be worse. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, it could be absolutely worse. Now, there's, like, you could say it's like a gratitude perspective. It's whatever else. You know, it's the saying of, you know, yourself at 20 years old would have dreamed to have these fucking problems. So, like, what are you complaining about? You know, if you want to be in the arena, be prepared to get a couple of wounds. You know, it's all this sort of shit where it's like, okay, fine, you can therapeutically dose yourself with that sort of stuff, and it helps me. Of course, that's not going to help other people, and then you got to figure out what's the shit that actually helps you to be like, help out with whatever problem you're in.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here first. Once claiming that men are kinder to others and females aren't. There you go.
I think specifically, as males are kinder to others and unkind to ourselves.
Yeah, I would put it this way: one of the main also qualms I had of this, which is, she had a good therapist, and I'm assuming she's saying she's a good therapist as well in the book. The vulnerability of exposing yourself, I could see the questions that they're asking people. If therapists wanted to lead them down a wrong path, or a selfish path, I feel that would be super, super easy.
It's happened before, heaps. Like, I remember reading an example of a couple's counselor that led this particular female down a path that she would leave her husband to get with him. Like, that was a known, like, man, I'm sure that happens. And why does that happen? Because when you put yourself in a more vulnerable position, you're then able to be influenced much more easily, right? That's a very commonplace thing. So it can be, fairly, and part of it is for therapy, but to work, you have to be vulnerable to share that stuff, but then it puts you at the mercy of the guidance of this person. So a good one, fantastic. But in a bad case, like, man, that could be really problematic.
Yeah, definitely. And I would probably say the same with AI. If you scouting on, someone's got a model and they've adjusted certain parameters, they've put certain things into it. You
make them more liberal, make them more whatever.
Make them
hate nuclear power.
Make them like this cult that I'm developing.
Sure.
And, have you thought about the,
I see you've got a problem with your one-arm handstand, but if you join this cult, you might improve.
Yes, correct. So I would certainly be, that's another kind of thing where it's like, all right, there's something to think about. If you're going into, trying to fix a problem, you want people to understand you, and that's, I guess, half of the battle of feeling understood, but then also the practical solution aspect of it. Just realizing that, okay, you can get some really shitty practical advice as well, and that's why probably you actually don't want that much practical advice from your therapist. That's they can.
It's kind of like
influence
you don't go to the trailer park and go and ask a couple of people, give me some idea and practical advice about making money or like being successful in the money business perspective. You could, but you might not be getting the best information that you possibly could.
If you go to a tiler at your roof, you've got a problem with your house. There's a leak in the roof or something. A tiler is going to suggest a certain thing compared to a carpenter who's going to suggest something else. Compared to it could be the same problem. Like the light bulb's not working. The tiler is saying like it's water coming in through the roof. The electrician's saying it's the wiring. The fucking manufacturer's saying you need to just replace the light bulb. It's the same problem, but the solution
is different.
Yeah.
And same with incentives, right? Like if you've got, like she was talking about a business model, if they've got a particular business model where it's higher, we need you to be on here for 8, 16, 24 sessions, 2 years. If they might not be incentivized to get yours sorted in 3 sessions, it'll be like, oh no, you need to keep coming back. And even though they maybe know that they're able to go and do it themselves, they keep on the hook for that sweet money that comes through. So,
sure,
there's incentives as well that people got to watch out for.
Yeah, they 50-minute sessions are apparently the norm
for therapy.
Yeah. And why that is, I have no idea. But
there you go. All you have to do is listen into the Mere Mortals podcast. We give you more than 50 minutes every Sunday morning. All you need to do is you come in, you sit down, 9 a.m. By the time we finish, you're dumber. So it's fantastic. You've settled in. You feel superior because of what we've talked about. So I hope you enjoyed that.
You don't even have to pay, but you can. Correct. So we very much appreciate Petar, late bloomer actor, for sending in some support.
Correct.
If you would like to do that as well, meremortalspodcasts.com/support. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. Simply like reaching out to us, joining any of the social media, giving us topic suggestions you'd like to hear from or about, leaving comments, reviews, joining us in the live like Cole and Patricia have, and then also sending in a Boostagram via an app like Fountain, Podcast Guru, Customatic, True Fans, things like that is very much appreciated.
Correct. I think we'll leave it there. Immortalites, thank you very much then for tuning in live. For those who are listening afterwards, be well wherever you are in the world. One out.
Turn out.
Good. Bye.